Big dick Chris Nolan, man. Right?
Absolutely.
That's right.
Oppie, here we go.
There he is, Oppie. Love this guy.
Can
Oh
I
my
tell you,
God.
if
Great
I,
movie.
I was not prepared for how many times we're saying Oppie in this movie.
Oh yeah.
And chanting Oppie, and the whole time, because Eric, you texted it like before
I texted
was
it
it
as a joke.
Really?
And I hadn't seen the movie yet, and I was just sort of like, I'm going to see Oppie in a minute. And then they started saying, I'm like, did I write the movie?
Oh, fuck, did I forget I wrote Oppenheimer?
I mean,
the whole time during the movie, I was saying it like Wally. I was just like, Oppie. Just like repeatedly for 3 hours.
It is great. I mean, and this is like following the people, like Chris said. Like Chris Nolan did this. I feel like maybe someone else couldn't have pulled this off necessarily as well, and make it as riveting as it is. Like I'm like on the edge of my seat, hour like 2.5, like worried about his security clearance.
Yes.
The acting, I think, is what really carries this forward. I think RDJ was fantastic.
Dude,
I think nomination is going to happen for this performance.
It's nice to have him back. I can't tell you how nice it is to enjoy him in a movie that's not under the auspices of the MCU or anything like that. Because it has, I mean, like, people who have seen The Judge will know what I'm talking about here. It is rough going outside of Iron Man with him lately. And like,
dude, forget about The Judge. This movie was completely absent of any bad English or Welsh accents that he might be trying to pull
Doolittle
off.
was nowhere near this, thank God. I mean, it was just beautiful to watch him do this kind of stuff again.
And he is absolutely riveting. He's fantastic. I will say, and obviously, I mean, I think Cillian Murphy is like otherworldly good, and like it's so important to this movie. The twitchiness, the weird sexiness that he's fucking everybody in that movie.
Dude, I had no idea Oppenheimer was laying this much pipe.
I love at the end, it's sort of towards the end of the movie, and I'm not spoiling anything, like somebody's like, but what about that woman? What about your affair with that woman? And he's like, oh, her husband never found out. It doesn't count before he died. And I'm like, Jesus, dude.
Yeah.
Leave some for the rest of Los Alamos, Mr. Oppenheimer.
People have been criticizing the sexuality of the film or sex at all being in the movie, but it's like you're making a nuanced portrait of a person, and it's and I think the sex scene is effective for the callback to it in the sort of interrogation kind of scene.
He's a sexual person. People have sex lives, and that's
people be fucking.
But
People
be fucking. But even on like a story structure level, there's a reason for that sex scene that comes up later.
But there is a reason. I mean, like actually, in the text as well. But like, I want to know, like, so many of the world's like most gravest men were also horn dogs, like and like weird looking guys as well. Like Oppenheimer, like you know him as this, like he looks like a skeleton when he says "I have become death." You know, when he actually says it on TV, like that. To know that he just needed to fuck married women, like he just needed to do it day in, day out, was his real passion.
You're gonna have to build you're gonna have to build a town, build it fast. I'm gonna cuck everyone's wives.
Yes, bring their families. I'm gonna fuck them.
But you need to bring the scientists and their families. I'm gonna fuck their wives quietly.
You know, if Oppenheimer had access to computers and internet, maybe he'd be jerking it more than he would be going out and putting it plaplaces.
Look, we're gonna have it's gonna be a town swap. You see, there's gonna be a town, and then we're gonna swap.
I think Emily Blunt's fantastic in this movie. I do think that Downey Jr. is going to be nominated. However, Jason Clarke doing off the top rope, he like doing what he does best, which is being unlikable. He finds a way to be in a room with a guy with no fewer than 100,000 fatalities, and for you to look at the other guy that Jason Clarke is playing, and like, fuck that guy. Why is he being so rude to Oppenheimer?
I know.
You're totally right, dude.
And you know,
it's a masterstroke.
But
the man in the glasses is being mean to the fucking mass murderer.
Yes.
But the way they handle the mass murder is very well. Like the whole movie is like a meditation on like how horrible this was.
Yes.
And I feel like there's a lot of misreadings on the internet I was seeing of people being very sympathetic to the Axis powers, which that's your choice. That's fine.
I mean, because I think that's more because like a movie must be everything now, right? Like it must also you can't just make flags of your
fathers. You have to do letters from Iwo Jima as well.
They have to be at the same movie,
the brilliant
same time,
thing about
at the
that,
same
at the same time. I love that Eastwood did those separately, and it's funny you bring that up, Chris, because I was thinking about it a lot after this movie. Those two I want to revisit.
Incredible films, wonderful movies.
I think that we deal. I mean, like that's what's so great about the sort of last 50 minutes of the movie. It does turn into a courtroom movie, which is really smart, and it gives the movie another engine after the engine of the bomb falling, or of the test, and then the bomb. But but it's you're struggling with legacy. You know what I mean? And how does this stuff get adjudicated through the courts? Through how, you know what I mean? Like all these little public failures and or humiliations for various characters. I had a question for the group because I was sort of split on this, but I wound up liking it. Do we think it's chicken shit? Because there's only one moment where, and I mean, I think so much of the movie does grapple with the horror that Oppenheimer unleashes. It's not a hagiography at all. There's one moment when he's in a room where they're showing him pictures, which are very famous pictures of the nuclear, of the fallout of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And the camera stays on him. It stays on his horror of what he saw. Do you think it's chicken shit to not show the audience that at that moment, or do you think I wind up liking that because we're so close on him, and I think Murphy again is really good. You see he's dealing with it.
I think they handled it well. I think if you did more of it,
shock value,
it would have been a little weird, maybe.
If it would, and I think the issue is that you have to show an image that isn't the images everybody knows in that moment. Like it has to be something that is really new. And like, do I think it would have helped if you get one or two? Fine. Yeah, I do think you probably would feel the impact a little bit more. I like the reflection after the speech. I think that's a very strong way of dealing with that. But this is the Nolan thing. Nolan doesn't like that stuff. He doesn't. That's why no blood. Like that's his thing. He does not like this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's about the inner turmoil of the character for having done this, and
that's yes. Thank you. That's exactly right. That's what I was trying to sit here and articulate. But like, if you show those images, then it becomes about that, and that's not what this movie's about. And like, as people have been helpfully pointing out on the internet and in this very chat, like, yes, no shit, there are other movies you can go to for that stuff.
Yes, and
that's not what this movie is addressing, and that's why it's not there.
I just want to be clear because some people, I like that decision. I wanted to volley that ball so we could talk about it, but I do like that decision.
No, it's great, and just him just like grappling with the fact that he had basically been responsible for killing so many people, but I also think people need to, especially Americans, want to do something this week. Take 5 minutes out and Google Chinese deaths World War II, and just check it out.
Check it out. To what end? What should they be looking for?
I'm just saying Imperial Japan was as bad as the Nazis.
Well, yeah, I mean that's, but like it goes more to like what is like. I think it's good to have a little shock of things that brings you like this was exactly like my problem with Tar, right? Is that it's very hermetic. And like I think the thing with Oppenheimer you have to buy into that it has a similar thing, is that it is about this character. And therefore, if something's coming in from outside of it, you like I think that's good. I think it's good to breach that once or twice just to like show that there is a world outside. But it doesn't hurt the film to me. Like I like this movie much more than I like Tar. But
I love Tar too.
I mean, Tar is great, but like
Tar was my favorite of the other year. This might end up being my favorite of this year. I don't know.
This is my favorite. This is right now is my favorite. It just edged out Beau is Afraid as my top.
This is tied with Tenet for my favorite Nolan movie. They're two sides of a coin with him. I like.
You know,
like,
Oppie is afraid of this profilation of nuclear arms.
It is just, but it's amazing that Nolan made a drama. It's a biographical, because he's only done thriller and action movie at this point, right? I mean, you'd have to put them in those buckets. Like Prestige is a thriller.
You call Prestige, like
I call it a thriller. You know, because it's got the twist ending and the whole thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Insomnia is definitely a thriller. Following is a thriller. Memento is a crime drama thriller. You know what I mean? Like thriller, and or action. And this is like the full on, like nobody fires a fucking gun in this movie. I mean, we dropped the mother of all bombs. We don't even, you know what I mean? Like,
don't need no gun.
I would argue though that it's just as thrilling and way more horrifying than any of his other movies. Like this is I was thinking about this like as the credits rolled, like, you know, whatever horror I consumed this year, like this is the most horrifying movie I saw this year. And you know, if you're out there watching this movie as like, look, they're dramatizing Oppenheimer and getting you to feel bad for him, go back and watch it again, because I don't believe I think this is just an indictment of this whole thing, and no one is coming at, like, Nolan is not sitting there like, we should be kinder to this guy or what. No. It is a real fuck all these people, fuck their evil fucking hubris, like fuck all of them. They're all just as guilty. And that's what it's like. It's kind of funny because, like, again, like Eric, you said, all of that trial about, or in a trial, like the little hearing about his security clearance, like, I think part of it, like, that is such a low stakes thing. And it allows you to sort of sit there with everything else, because, like, you don't give a shit if he gets a security clearance at the end, but it allows you to focus on, like, what's being said. And in that time, I was just marinating in, like, fuck this piece of shit. Like, I don't care. Like, just the notion of, like, oh, I was just the scientist doing my math, and that's just I didn't know what it was gonna, you know. Fuck you, dude. Fuck all these people. Rot in hell.
But fuck all the Germans that were researching too, and the Russians as well.
I mean, but this is the thing, is like the trick of the movie is that you do care about him. Like, I don't think, like,
I care about him deeply at the end there, when he's like, oh, I'm like, but Oppie needs Q level clearance.
The thing is, like, he makes you like have that feelings about, like, the point is, like, I think of this as a big budget remake of Memento in a way. Is like he finds a way to create this way he's doing it righteously, like through his, like, I mean, they talk a lot about how he was his Jewishness in this, and that stuff, and like there's these building blocks of how you create a narrative where you are doing the right thing, and they end up being false. They end up being oases, like they do not exist, and like this is that on a big scale, like. Through science and innovation and all this stuff, and like trying to stop what you consider absolute evil, you create something 10 times more evil in a way.
Right, like, exactly.
And like it's horror. That is true horror, is because you see a man do that. You don't see some total villain. Like, he's not a cackling anime villain. No. He's just like this guy who was obsessed and had a brain for this stuff.
And why Nolan is so perfect for the movie is two things. One, the amount of power and the amount of engagement and the excitement for all of these different moments and all of these different things. And there's never like a bullshit, I was calling it last night, like a house moment where like he's just sitting around like, wait a second. Somebody's like, oh man, it's cold, I'm gonna put a jacket on. It's like, what'd you just say? Put a jacket on. We have to stop the isotopes. You know, run around and solve the problem. You know what I mean? Like, you can totally do that.
You could,
But that's what, because the movie knows the bomb is going to drop. The movie expects the bomb to drop. Yeah. It's just the horror of the march to it. And I think that what the Nolan-ness of it, to your point, Chris, and kind of goes to what I was talking about a little earlier, is like, everyone's hands are clean the entire fucking movie. There isn't a drop of blood, but there are fucking hundreds of thousands dead by the end of it, because that's how these people worked. You know what I mean? He was in Los Alamos. He never saw fucking, you know what I mean? Like the actual carnage. So then we don't see it, and your hands are clean, but you have to live with the information that he lives with.
Yeah, right. And the way that they do, like, they trick you into, like, to like Andrew's point, like, this was an active, like, this is very easily seen as an active evil. Like, what, like, when you're watching Cillian Murphy talk to Ben Safdie about stuff, you are getting like wrapped up in like the technical talk with them. What are they talking about? But you don't, and then for a moment you forget first that they're talking about what's the difference. Should we make and deploy a nuclear bomb, or should we make and deploy a hydrogen bomb? Yeah, is essentially what they're arguing. And like the fact that it is those two things at once, this like monotonous but also rhythmic and intellectual conversation, and also this just discussion of good versus evil, or just evil versus more evil, like, is powerful. It's some of the most powerful stuff he's done ever. Period.
Yeah. That, like, the ending, and you know, not to spoil too much, but like that whole, the final reveal about like what did Einstein say to him, and like that final shot. Oh yeah, it's bone chilling. Yeah, oh totally. And, like, this is a movie that is meant to like take you so far outside of yourself and like look at this planet as a whole, and just and like sit there and think. And like that's why like I think part of the genius of it being 3 hours is it gives you time to sit there and ruminate on all this while it's happening. And it's like we are so hyped to fucking kill ourselves, and we will kill ourselves, and not enough people give a flying fuck about it. And like I was just sitting there getting so enraged watching this movie, and I hope other people do too. And I hope, you know, one movie's not going to change the world or whatever, but like if more people just kind of thought on the whole about that shit, I'd sleep a little better at night, man. But like as it stands, the night after seeing this movie, I did not sleep too well. Sure. I was mad. I was fucking terrified because like those people don't care. They didn't care then. They certainly don't care now.
And you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
Nope. No, yeah, exactly.
So it's here now. That's why it's like, I guess we're gonna have to do H-bombs, and we're gonna have to do an arms race now.
That Benny Safdie line, like, which is all over the trailer, but like, yeah, like what happens when someone builds a bigger bomb? And all I could think about was like those fucking like Yosemite Sam Looney Tunes where it's like guns going over the planet, you know, arms race visual gags like that. And it's like it's fucking disturbing.
Well, I mean, I think ending on the Einstein bit was smarter than the original ending, which was him looking at a vanity mirror, looking at his 14-inch cock and being like, you're going to be a star, and put it back in his
God spreading the news.
I'm fucking your wife.
Yeah. He sent that cock through communist channels.
He's just trolling like registries, like for newly married people. He's just like, "Oh, can I buy you something? Hi, who was your wife?"
Oh, wouldn't it be great if it was nothing about the bomb? It was just in the background.
Oh,
and he's
yeah.
just like
just getting it wet all the time.
Oh, yeah,
totally.
And every once in a while, Josh Hartnett comes out to say, "Hey, you know, we're working on the thanks. I'm fucking someone right now."
He was good too, Josh Hartnett. And by the way, people,
phenomenal.
Yes.
Wrath of Man came out a few years ago. He's also very good in that.
A lot
so
of fun.
check that out.
Hartnett, this is my favorite Benny Safdie performance probably ever.
Yeah. David Krumholtz, man. Krumholtz is awesome in this movie.
He is. I mean, it's just wall to wall. And Emily Blunt is fantastic.
Yes.
I think we can't say enough. That scene when like she's just drinking and he's like, "Aren't you gonna go to the baby?" She's like, "I've been going all day," and I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah, she's fucking great in the movie. I'm seeing a lot of people like females being underutilized in this movie. I mean, sure, but think about the time and the setting of this movie.
Yes.
Yeah, it takes place in Kendom or the Kingdom of Ken or whatever.
I mean, I'm glad that the movie is, as to be quite honest, as white and as male as it is, because A, that's how this shit worked, and B, like if you did a race blind kind of cast where like you don't care, blah blah blah, you just want to have really diverse and interesting actors in the movie, it lessens the effect of
it lessens the indictment.
It lessens the indictment, especially of the cheering rally scene. You know what I mean? Like that. If that is like a beautiful array of diverse Americans that were never fucking in Los Alamos, you don't get what you're getting, which is like this cheering whiteness stomping their feet. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I mean, but it's always been his weakness. Like it's fine, and it's fine. To me, it's fine. It's the same thing with Michael Mann. Michael Mann has struggled for a long time to have a meaningful female character. Like it didn't happen till later, and like I think Emily Blunt really picks up the slack in the latter half of this.
Yes, she does.
I was worried in the first part because she wasn't being used, I thought, that well. She was for like scenes like the baby scene. Like you got these little cuts, but you didn't get her to really punch. And then she gets the scene where it's her and what's his name, Jason Clarke, where she just absolutely pummels him.
Oh, dude, she fucking tears that tree down.
So you get stuff like that, and I think that like this is an advancement. Like Nolan has these weaknesses. It's okay to look at these as weaknesses that he's going to work on. Hopefully, who knows?
And should he restructure it and completely fumble the ball doing something he necessarily might not be the best suited for?
I don't think he would have done better. Like I didn't feel like that was missing. Like I thought the scenes with Florence Pugh are very, very affecting. I was really haunted by them all.
Yes.
Even like
she's like a specter, like haunting the whole movie.
I thought it worked. It all worked for me.
The glove scene, the glove shot. That's gonna be. I mean, that's one of those Nolan things.
Maybe.
That's gonna be one of those like you're jogging back on Blu-ray to check out what's going on there. But I thought that was kind of an interesting like sort of put that in. The old timer that's part of the committee there.
I love that guy,
dude. But this guy was so old. I was like, was he some dude like involved in the project or something? Like,
no, they're all
the last living.
No, they all got radiation poisoning and died.
Yes,
the last cafeteria worker. They just got him to hang out there.
That's what I want. I wanted, I'm glad that the movie just ends and there's not like Robert Oppenheimer died, but none of that shit.
Well, there's no super text at all. There's no 1941. You never know what time it is until you have to kind of pay attention and be like, oh, this is before the war, this is after the war, this is, you know what I mean, and like all that stuff. Also, by the way, the black and white is stunningly beautiful on 70 millimeter.
Oh my god,
boy! I mean, the whole movie is beautiful, but the black and white is like, ouch! That looks.
They had to create special film stock, special black and white IMAX 65 gauge film stock for this movie. That's crazy. I will say to the fucking the booth team at AMC Lincoln Square, clean the fucking gate in your projector. There were dust bunnies all over the screen. I was bumming hard, man. At first I was like, is there like a bug like stuck? But like you looked and it was just like dust here and there. And like, listen, you don't want to be damaging these prints, folks. So clean up your act down there. Get some white gloves on.
There have been numerous reports of like problems with those 70 millimeter screenings.
No one knows how to project anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's it's a staff issue. It just seems like.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not the guy to know this, but I thought it looked great. I at least at the Village East. I don't know if anyone else can confirm or deny.
Mine looked great. It's why I really I didn't go down to the Brooklyn Alamo to see it on 70 millimeter there. They don't appreciate real projectionists in the same way. There was just some dust, but no, overall it looked amazing. And like I said, I was front row IMAX, and it was a movie you could feel. It was incredibly immersive, and I think like for a movie like that, you need to be immersed. And I was in it. I was in it to win it.
I think he does that well from the beginning too. Like I think a lot of people have been talking a lot about once they get to Los Alamos and once that really firms up. But like I thought the stuff of him when he's still at college was phenomenal. Like the little cutaways to the particles and the real like
all that stuff.
Sense of what him building who he is and his ideas about science and physics and all this stuff. Like I thought they handled it very, very well.
It was a more interesting look into the quantum verse than Ant-Man and the Wasp.
For sure.
By quite some measure, yeah.
Oh, that could have been the genie that he can't get out of the bottle anymore. He finds little Ant-Man and stuff, and it's just like, oh no.
But you know what? I think we could be here for another few hours. The length of Oppie talking about these movies we saw this week, but we want to cut it here, folks.